How's it going, guys? Coffee here. Today I wanted to go over how to craft in Torchlight Infinite. First things first, let's go over the materials that are used in crafting, and that's going to be flame sand here and flame elementium. Flame elementium is of course the more expensive thing to be using, but flame sand, you will be getting a ton of it, and it is something you're going to be using. So typically when you are trying to craft something, you want to start with a specific base and with a specific mod in mind that you're trying to get on your item. So in my specific case for my weapon, I purchased a staff that had the spell skill level already on it, as well as the additional spell damage mod. Depending on what the item is, you might be buying it looking for 2 specific mods already on there, or with 1 already on there. It really depends, and depending on what the item is, you really need to actually check the prices of what they are before you decide to craft, because it might be easier to buy something else that's already partially crafted and then finish it from there versus trying to hit it yourself. In the first example, if you see here, if you go ahead and click the crafting button over here on the left, we have a chest here with +1 active skill level. If we wanted to take this chest and we wanted to craft it, what we do is we could click here to lock this prefix or lock this one modifier, and if we were to hit the crafting button, this would basically reroll everything that isn't locked without costing any plasticity. But if we did want to lock a second mod at the same time, then it's going to start costing some of the plasticity that we have. The plasticity that we have can be used for 2 things. It can be used for rerolling the item with 2 mods locked on it, or it can be used to upgrade modifiers that are already on here. So if you see here, we could upgrade this T1 mod to tier 0. Doing this would remove all of the plasticity to do it though, and this would also cost a lot of money. So this is going to be one of the last steps you do when you're crafting an item, or in regards to the prototype crafting phase of crafting. But if we wanted to upgrade one of these other mods, it's only going to use a percentage of the plasticity. So if you see here, if we were to upgrade this from tier 3 to tier 2, this would cost us 21 to 39 plasticity. In most cases, what you're going to want to be doing is taking the one mod that you do want the most of, and then you're going to want to be rolling it until you hit the other mods that you want on the item, regardless of what level they are. So say if we were looking for, we just wanted resistances and like minion damage, for example, you'd take something like this. Typically you'd want to get it starting with slightly higher tiers, like things that like at least like tier 4 or tier 5. But what we could do from here is we could then upgrade these modifiers up as high as we could. And every single one of these upgrades that we would be doing would be using a portion of the plasticity. And typically when we have a modifier that is at tier 2, even though when we try to modify something from tier 2 to tier 1, let me see if I can find a tier 2 mod so I can show it. If we were to try to upgrade something from tier 2 to tier 1, what would end up happening is the amount of plasticity that it would cost is going to be higher than it is. So from tier 3 to tier 2, you see it's 21 to 39. Let's see if we can roll a tier 2 mod just so we can showcase this. Just for an example here. Let's go through. See how many clicks it takes to find a tier 2. Hopefully not too many, but we'll see. So sometimes the good thing about using this method is it does use a lot of flame sand, but it doesn't use any of the plasticity on the item. The other thing you could, if you end up, like say you end up rolling 2 specific tier 1 mods, you might get forced into holding 2 of the mods earlier than you normally would. But let's find a tier 2 here. We're not going to be able to find one. All I know is it's anywhere from it's like 33 to 60 or something plasticity that it uses. As long as you have at least 1 plasticity, you can do this last upgrade that it's saying. So typically what you'll be doing if you are trying to push an item and prepare it for target processing is you're going to get the 4 mods that you want on the item, 4 or 5 mods, whichever it may be, and you're going to push up the tiers on those mods as high as you can with the remaining plasticity that you have. And then basically you're going to push whatever mod is most important that you want to also get to tier 1 along with the one you started with. You're going to push that to tier 2 and then push all the other mods up as high as you can while not risking going to 0 plasticity. And then once the item is at 1 plasticity, that's when you then click on the last mod and you're going to push that last mod in order up to tier 1. From that point, you'll have an item that will look something like I guess I don't have any mods that are, or any items that are still in that state. But for this item, for example, when I finished this item, before I did the target processing on it, this item had this tier 1 spell skill level, it had tier 3 energy shield, and it had a tier 1 gear energy shield mod on it. When I clicked this item up to, when I used the ultimate ember in order to make this to be +2 spell skill level, it removes one of the other modifiers on the item. That is not a target processed mod. So it'll be something that isn't blue in this case. So this had 4 modifiers on it. When I clicked this up to +2 spell skill level, it removed one of those modifiers. And then it left me with this. So I had 3 modifiers left that were empty, and then I had these 2 modifiers here. And once I clicked this up using the ultimate ember in order to get it to tier 0, then that did remove the rest of the plasticity, so I can no longer upgrade any of these other things, because now I'm at 0. If I had another mod that was at tier 1, I could then upgrade that to tier 0 as well, but I would be putting the other tier 0 mod at risk. So keep that in mind. If you are going to do that, it's basically a risk. Typically it's going to be like a 1 in 3. Like so in this case, when I crafted this, there was a cooldown recovery mod down here. So when I clicked this second additional spell damage mod up to tier 0, this could have removed this as well, and if that would have been the case, I would have just had to start crafting a new staff. Basically would have been the best route. So typically when you get to this state here, once you basically push your item to the state of this item right here, where you have taken a mod and you've pushed it up, or you've gotten your 4 mods that you have, and you have your 2 mods that are tier 1. From there, you can either just target process the last 2 mods if you're like at an intermediate state. You can either like target process 1 mod and then you can use enchanting in order to craft the last mod on there, or you can just target process the remaining mods that are there. But what ends up happening is once you end up pushing a mod up with an ultimate ember, that is going to make that mod tier 0, it's going to remove another mod, and then that's the point at which you use target processing in order to finish the item. So when it comes to using target processing, you can click the buttons here to kind of track if you had specific mods you're trying to roll. What you want to be doing if you are rolling things with target processing is, in a case like my boots here, the odds of getting specific mods are not the same, right? So I wanted this, I wanted gear energy shield, I wanted this maximum energy shield, and I wanted focus blessings. If you look at the chance of getting focus blessing on here, the chance is 1.16%. And the chance of getting 2 stacks of focus blessing is even lower than that. But if you look at the odds of the energy shield mods, these add up to, I believe, 100% or very, very close to 100%. I guess not in this case. This one's like somewhere around 50-something percent, whatever this is. So this mod is 50%. And then the mod above this is going to be 100%. Like the energy shield mod, it adds up to 100. Yeah, this one adds up to 100. So when you go to click these, it tells you right here. So 54% chance of success on this one, 1.75% chance of success on this one, and 100% chance of success on this one. So if you were in a case like this with these boots, and you had these 3 mods already locked in, and you needed to target process 3 mods, the way that you would go about doing this, or the way that I did go about doing this, is you take this mod here where you're trying to click for focus blessings. You're going to basically click the craft button. If it misses, if it doesn't succeed, it's going to give you a blemish. And if it has a blemish, you can click this either reforge and recraft button, which what that button does is it will remove all of the blue mods that you can see here, all of the target processed mods, and then it will just recraft the last mod you clicked. There is a reminder here. You can set this reminder to be tier 1, tier 2, or tier 0, to where if you try to click the reforge and recraft button, it will give you a warning like, hey, are you sure you want to do this because you're going to get rid of a mod or whatnot. So that way you can like safely click the button a bunch of times until you hit the tier that you want. So in this case, for focus blessings, I had to click this thing like 100 times in order to get to hit. So what you do once you hit the focus, or once you hit the rarest mod, at that point, then you are clicking the last 2 mods, and you want to click them roughly in the order that they are, like based off of how hard they are to get. Like in a case where you wanted to ensure that you got all 3 and you didn't want to have a blemish on your gear, then you would click again the hardest mod. Once you get the hardest mod at the tier you want, then, or the most important mod at the tier you want, then you click the other 2 mods. So in this case, I got lucky. I got tier 1 on my energy shield mod as well, on the percent energy shield mod as well, and then I got a low tier on my last energy shield mod. In regards to choosing what to start with for a crafting base, depending on an item like this, so say we had a growth ring, you can buy these here. You can buy one already at this 80% growth, so we can buy one at tier 3, and we could go through the process of upgrading this. Upgrading a mod to tier 2 costs 10 FE, upgrading a mod to tier 1 costs 30 FE, and then upgrading a mod to tier 0 costs 50 FE plus an ultimate ember. So keep these into account when you are searching for the prices of things. So if we knew that starting with the tier 3 ring here, it would cost us 40 FE and some of the plasticity in order to get the mod to tier 1, we could actually check the prices on, say, this, right? The price on a tier 3 growth ring is going to be really cheap, but if we wanted a ring that was already tier 1, we could search for a ring that is already tier 1 here, and we could just go by ourselves and start with a ring that already has us at tier 1. Right, we can see that there are some inexpensive ones. When we do search for these, we do want to search. We're searching for ones with the 200 plasticity that we want to start with. So if we look here, we could already get a ring that is 10 FE that starts with the tier 1 mod that we want, and then roll it from there. Same thing goes if you are going to start with something where like this, where you want items that have either 1 or more tier 0 mods on it. Like if I were to try to craft this specific mod, everything on a 2-hander is going to be twice the price because you're effectively crafting 2 weapons for the price of 1. So if I wanted a weapon, the cost just to get the +6 spell skill level mod, at a bare minimum, we know would be 140 FE. But if you actually go and search the prices for this, you could find a weapon with this +6 spell skill level, say with this percent additional damage mod on it. We want to search for the second mod here. With this percent additional damage mod on it as tier 1. So we want this to be tier 0, this to be tier 1. If we look at the prices of these start at 150 FE. Right? So this would be a cheaper option to start with something like this than it would be to try to craft an entire staff from scratch. So when I started this staff that I'm currently wearing, it was only 100 FE at the time. And then I finished crafting the things that I wanted on it. So same with this case. Say if you were to buy this staff here, right, you would have this, you would have 2 options. You could either try to push this second additional percent spell damage mod to tier 0 at the risk of losing either the cast speed or the +6 spell levels. Or you can basically just do the same thing that this person did, which is leave the mods that are already on there, target process a couple mods, and then just enchant the last mod. Or you could target process 3 mods on it. But typically when it comes to a lot of the gear that you get, it is going to be cheaper to take something that someone already tried to craft and they didn't hit the exact perfect thing that they were looking for, and start off with that, than it is going to be to try to fully craft something up from basically from scratch, unless you're one of those people that like you want something to be exactly perfect. If you want it to be exactly perfect, of course it's, you know, it may or may not be cheaper to start this way, but it really depends on the item. You're going to need to search up both before you purchase anything. Same thing goes, like if you were to look for this, there's other options where like it might be cheaper to look for something that starts with the tier 2 version of the spell skill level and tier 1 of this, right? If we were looking for this, this is 40 FE now. But we know it would only cost us, you know, it would cost us 20 FE to push this mod here. It would cost us, I guess it would cost us 60 FE to push this mod here from tier 2 to tier 1. And then we could push this to tier 0, which would then be another 140 FE, but it's going to remove one of these other mods. Right? So you have a few different options there in regards to crafting your gear. Personally, how I do it, buy something that already has tier 0 mods on it, and then target process the things that are left to do on it. For the rings, I didn't end up doing that. Like for things like this, where you only have one mod that you really need, which is the growth mod, you're better off just buying these at tier 1, rolling them until they have like the rest of the things on them. So in this case, this ring cost a decent amount of money because what I ended up doing, I started with the tier 1 growth. I rolled this ring until it had these specific mods. It had energy shield, it had minion damage, it had lightning resistance, and another resistance. I don't remember if it was erosion or fire. But what I did at that point is I pushed the tiers on all the mods up as high as I could with the plasticity that I had, which in this case I ended up pushing the energy shield to tier 1, and then I pushed the other mods to tier 2 and like tier 3 or something. I didn't have that much plasticity. And then when I pushed this to tier 0, it removed one of those mods. It is kind of an expensive process because you are spending like 40 FE per mod just to push it to tier 1, like 45 to 50 FE to push it to tier 1, even though it may just get removed in a second. But that's kind of the way that you get this starting base point where everything is either like tier 1 or tier 2 before you push something to tier 0. That's just kind of the process that you go through in order to get something like this. If you aren't going to push things to tier 0, it makes the process even a lot easier. Again, you could just actually lock 2 tier 1 mods and then start to use some of the plasticity if you need to. Though typically this route of not locking a second mod and just using all the plasticity to upgrade the mods once you find them is going to be the better route, or the route that I recommend for everyone. Yeah, if you have any questions or any other questions about crafting, leave them in the comments down below and I'll be more than happy to answer them. And other than that, see you in the next one.